Today I'm talking to Alistair Dickson, who is the Director of Sport Development at the RYA. And the RYA have been lobbying on sailing's behalf as to how we can restart sailing and get back out on the water. So first of all, Alistair, can you tell me what has been happening and who in the RYA has been working with government and the relevant authorities to enable us to get sailing again?
Yeah, hi Mark. So we've a team within our legal and current affairs department that have been working hard on behalf of both members and affiliates and the broader boating community to get boating really in front of government as one of the first considerations for outdoor activity that can recommence once the lockdown, restrictions are eased. So, the likes of Howard Pridding, who used to be the CEO of British Marine, is now working for us, and he's had a long career working with government and a lot of good contacts. So he's been working alongside other national governing bodies and with people like the Sport and Recreation Alliance that are a real, powerful combined voice to ensure that we, alongside other outdoor activities, are considered as a good thing for the government to move forward and allow once the conditions enable that.
It must be difficult though, because while you can do all of the lobbying, you can talk with all of the people who matter and make these decisions, we don't know what Boris Johnson is going to decide. Everybody's looking forward to this announcement on Sunday, but we don't know what he's going to decide. How tricky does that make your role?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I mean, it's a big challenge. We often look in our crystal ball in the RYA, and unfortunately, it's pretty cloudy at the moment, and there's not much clarity. And we're, watching the news at 5 o'clock like everybody else, seeing the updates and trying to guess what comes next. But we don't know. We've seen lots of opinions. I think today you could read pretty much every paper, and there was a different opinion on what Boris is going to say. We think that, the restrictions are going to be eased to the point where we will be allowed to do some form of outdoor sport more than we are currently. So with us, it's about scenario planning, just thinking through, if restrictions are eased to a certain point, what support can we provide, to our clubs, to our members, and to other, affiliates and elsewhere in the boating community to allow that to happen safely and in line with government advice.
You have already put out guiding principles supporting the return to boating and the strategy for that. It seems very much, if we do go out, we've got to really think about all of the different factors, the safety in particular, and be considerate and be conservative. But overall, sailing is a safe sport, and we can socially distance, especially in single-handed boats or when sailing with our family. So we'd hope we're in a good position here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what we're trying to do with those guiding principles is not only, I suppose, direct some of the work that's happening within the RYA, but also, I suppose, just get everybody within the boating community aligned around a sort of direction that will enable us as boaters to be, and I've stolen this saying from cycling, but part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So what we don't want to happen is in a few weeks' time is for people to be pointing fingers at sailing clubs saying, what's going on there? There's loads of people congregating. They're not really managing this, and they're not adhering to government, guidance and advice. So we really want to ensure that, firstly, we're seen to be really taking the government advice seriously. But secondly, we, are a safe sport, but there is some risk. So we want to reduce that risk wherever possible, just to ensure that we don't, add any additional strain on the emergency services or the RNLI.
Absolutely. We've all got to pull in the same direction in this. But what can clubs do in the meantime to prepare for any such time that restrictions are relaxed a bit?
Yeah, so there's a huge amount of work going on in clubs, and we've been supporting that wherever possible. And part of the challenge we have in the RYA is obviously there's so many forms of boating and also clubs that facilitate that activity. So it's about every club, I suppose, taking those two approaches, or two principles, if you like. The one being government advice and thinking through how they can operate within social distancing, within extra hygiene measures within making sure that communal spaces aren't congregated full of groups, and they're thinking about, be it one-way systems or reducing the amount of people that come to the club at any one time. And the second bit is really thinking through, how can they run activity that's really safe, that's, thinking through all their risk management, thinking through how safety boats will be able to operate and who's going to man those safety boats. We think there'll be a form of day sailing. I think racing is likely to be pretty far off, in terms of the phasing. So it's about thinking, well, how can we give everybody in our club the opportunity to come down without a boat park full of people? Do we need to close changing rooms? Do we need to close the clubhouse? How are people going to change? Do we need to, people to come change ready for the activity? How are we going to manage slipways? All this sort of stuff needs considering.
Well, this way, if the clubs are prepared, then as soon as restrictions are lifted, we can start to get out onto the water. And we know full well that sailing can really help with people's mental health. And as the lockdown has continued on, it is quite clear that we all need to get out as well. And do you think with this approach, the lobbying that you've done on sailing's behalf, we're going to really help in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've really been uncovering all the research that's out there that really shows sailing and, any fitness activity that happens in blue spaces. There's a lot of research out there that actually doing activity on the sea or on lakes or wherever is much better for you than doing it on land. So we've really been using that to lobby government. But absolutely, I mean, I think everybody's getting to that stage now where they're just feeling, really trapped and almost in a bubble. So I and everyone else in the RYA are really looking forward to getting out on the water. And absolutely, we want that to happen as soon as possible.
One of the things I think that could come out of this is the grassroots revival that we've seen, the brief shoots of coming through initially, and with the squad system concentrating more on a club basis. This could really push sailing forwards again and people really appreciating their local clubs.
Yeah, massively. And we've been speaking to a number of people within the industry and, elsewhere in the sector. I think, we have seen a gradual focus or prioritisation towards grassroots over the past, 12 to 18 months now. There's a huge amount that's been coming out through the media. I know you've been putting some stuff out, Mark, but I think everybody is going to be even more focused on the grassroots area. So that's a huge opportunity for us, I think, to really think through, how from this restart, if you like, that we can really maximise that and really ensure that, sailing is, protected for a long time to come, or even, increases in numbers going forward.
Well, I know that all of us, when we do, whenever that may be, get our first post-lockdown sail in, we're all going to be extremely happy. And thank you very much to all at the RYA. I know how much effort has gone in with the lobbying here and what it requires, especially with your team working remotely. So thank you very much, and fingers crossed that Sunday's announcement is positive. Thank you very much for your time, Alistair.
Thanks, Mark.